risky behavior.
The views and opinions expressed on this channel are solely those of the host and guest and are intended for entertainment and discussion purposes only. This channel does not promote bias, hatred, or discrimination of any kind. All questions posed and thoughts shared are part of a critical thinking exercise and are not meant to offend or judge any individual or group. We encourage respectful dialogue and love for all. Please remember to think critically and engage thoughtfully. We aim to foster a positive and inclusive community where everyone feels welcome. Thank you for being a part of Risky Behavior ENT.
Risky behavior.
How are y'all doing? Welcome back to Risky Behavior ENT. I am your humble host, Mr. Diabolical. Today I want to talk about a story that is truly diabolical. And when I took on the name Diabolical, it's because I wanted to bring awareness to a very specific thing, which is crimes against the most unprotected, which is crimes against children that usually they come out in the news, but it's not much coverage and they tend to get swept under the rug. And so I said, hey man, I want to be a person that doesn't just complain about it. I can bring awareness to it, so that these young children are not forgotten. Okay, so before we begin, I want to ask you to sit with this name, Nola Dinkins. She's a 3-year-old little girl. She's a child that should have been learning her ABCs, but instead she became the center of a homicide investigation. Today's episode is not easy. This is not about entertainment. It's about bringing awareness. It's a reckoning, because what happened to her, Nola, she's a little girl that was found wrapped in saran wrap, stuffed in a suitcase, discarded in a vacant lot. It's not just a crime. It points to a bigger problem that we have in our society. So it's a mirror, and we need to look into it.
And now to an Action News exclusive. We are learning more about the tragic murder of 3-year-old Nola Dinkins tonight. Police say she was beaten to death by her mother, who filed a false Amber Alert. And now the child's grief-stricken grandmother is talking only to Action News.
She stole our hearts, and she was my Nola bear.
Action News reporter Jessica Cortalia has more now from that heartbreaking interview, and she's live in our satellite center tonight. Jessica.
Well, Rick, there was a tough custody battle between Nola's parents. Her paternal grandmother telling me tonight that she never expected things to get this tragic.
Is Nola.
From her home in Indiana, Velma Dinkins shares stories of her granddaughter she lovingly called her Nola bear.
She captured everybody's heart. From the moment you saw her, you fell in love with her.
Maryland State Police say 3-year-old Nola Dinkins was discovered in a vacant parking lot in Cecil County. Nola's mother, 31-year-old Darian Randall, is charged with her murder.
And we have so many questions, but all of that is going to come in due time.
According to an arrest affidavit, Randall confessed to physically striking the victim with a belt approximately 15 to 20 times. Randall told police that when Nola stopped moving, she put her daughter's body in a suitcase. It remained there overnight at the home that Randall shared with her boyfriend, 44-year-old Cedric Antoine Britton, in Northeast Maryland. On Wednesday, police discovered the suitcase with Nola's body in a vacant parking lot. Britton is accused of helping Randall dispose of the little girl's body.
And we are just heartbroken that this has happened to us. My precious baby and my son is well loved, and he is going to get what he needs, and we're going to get the justice that we need, and we're going to get the closure, because he will never be alone.
In addition to facing murder charges in Maryland, Randall is charged with falsely reporting that her daughter had been kidnapped in Delaware. An Amber Alert was issued, then canceled hours later.
Go, Grandma, baby.
She touched so many people, and they remember her because she is unforgettable.
She certainly was. The little girl's mother is behind bars, awaiting extradition to Maryland. Rick?
That when Nola stopped moving them with a belt,
Let me
according charged with her murder to an arrest affidavit, Randall told police that when
who could beat a precious baby with a belt? A 3-year-old. This person right here. I always find it interesting how mug shots just seem to show the monster that lies inside. Oh my gosh. Let's walk through what we know. On June the 11th in 2025, Maryland State Police arrested Darian Randall and Cedric Britton in connection with the death of Nola Dinkins. Randall, the child's mother, had falsely reported a kidnapping in Delaware, triggering an Amber Alert. But the truth unraveled quickly. According to Maryland State Police, Randall later admitted to beating Nola with the belt 15 to 20 times until she became unresponsive. Britton allegedly tried CPR. When they realized she was dead, they wrapped her in saran wrap, placed her in a suitcase, and left her on the basement steps overnight. The next day, Britton disposed of the suitcase in a park. He even sent Randall a picture of the location. Investigators later recovered the body in a vacant lot in Cecil County. The details are harrowing. NBC Philadelphia reports that Britton now faces 11 charges, including child abuse resulting in death. I brought up an article for Maryland State Police. This is Maryland.gov. It says 2 arrests made in connection with missing child in Delaware. It says Maryland State Police have arrested 2 in connection with the missing child recently identified in an Amber Alert in Delaware. Because she told them that she was kidnapped, so they issued an Amber Alert, to get her back. The accused are identified as Darian Randall, age 31, and Cedric Antoine Britton, age 44, of Northeast Maryland. After consultation with the Office of the State's Attorney in Cecil County, arrest warrants have been issued for Randall and Britton. Randall is charged with first and second degree murder, first degree of child abuse resulting in death of a minor under 13, and the other related criminal charges. Randall is currently in police custody at the Newcastle County Division of Police awaiting extradition. Britton is charged with accessory to first and second degree murder after the fact, failure to report child death, and other related criminal charges. Britton is in police custody in Maryland and awaiting transport to the Cecil County District Court for an initial appearance. Yesterday evening, an Amber Alert was issued for 3-year-old Nola Dinkins through the New Castle County Division of Police after her mother reported her kidnapped in Newark, Delaware. The New Castle County Division of Police Criminal Investigations Unit, along with the FBI, began an intense investigation that continued through the night. Maryland State Police from the Northeast Barrack and the Criminal Enforcement Division, Northern Region, assisted in the investigation. Information gleaned throughout the investigation, I apologize for that, revealed the initial report provided by Randall was false, and the Amber Alert was subsequently canceled. The New Castle County Division of Police requested Maryland State Police to respond to Randall's last known address in Northeast, where they made contact with Britain. Further investigation led to potential criminal activity, which subsequently led to the recovery of human remains in a vacant lot in Northeast Maryland. At 1:45 p.m. today, investigators from the Maryland State Police Homicide Unit located human remains consistent with that of a young child. Positive identification of the remains is pending autopsy results by the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner in Baltimore. The Maryland State Police Homicide Unit is leading the investigation with assistance from the FBI and New Castle County Division of Police in Delaware. Crime scene technicians from Maryland State Police Forensic Sciences Division responded to process the scene for evidence. Troopers from the Northeast Barrack and from the Criminal Enforcement Division, Northern Region, also provided assistance with the investigation. Okay. And I like to read the articles in case it presents evidence that may not have been included in the news that they might post on YouTube or that you see on the TV. Let's see. Okay. So here we talking about, this article is titled boyfriend of mom charged. And let me zoom in. And that should be big. Okay, that's bigger. This article is boyfriend of mom charged in girl's murder and fake kidnapping faces new charges. And it's crazy to me that I can't. You have a mom that beats her own daughter till she is unresponsive, and to think that you would have a boyfriend that aids in that, like nothing, like you're with somebody that doesn't say like, hold on, wait a minute, you did what? Like, wait a minute, like, come on, I you would think somebody would draw the line there, like like what? Your response is to go hide this little girl's body, put it in a suitcase, after you wrap it up in saran wrap. Oh my goodness. Law enforcement officials in Maryland have arrested Cedric Britton on new charges after his girlfriend, Darian Randall, was charged with beating her 3-year-old daughter, Nola Dinkins, to death in June. Let's see.
As I was reading them for the first time, we're sitting in the truck. It was hard to read the documents today. As I was reading them for the first time, we're sitting in the truck just astounded. But yeah, a lot of this, of course, is a New Castle County Police Department story. It all started here. But police in Maryland now say 31-year-old Darian Randall didn't have her daughter stolen here in Delaware. Like she said, they say she beat her to death with a belt back on Monday. And then they say her boyfriend hid the body. They say this whole Amber Alert thing that led to the Amber Alert that had all of our phones screaming at us Tuesday night. It was all just an elaborate cover-up.
They don't have words.
Neighbors here in this Northeast Maryland community said they never saw Darian Randall or her 3-year-old daughter Nola living up the long driveway in the home of 44-year-old Cedric Britton. They say they barely knew Cedric and have no idea what he even did for a living.
It was surprising and shocking to see all yesterday.
Court documents show after police began investigating the accusation Nola was stolen off a quiet road in Newark, they learned what really happened. They say Randall had beaten Nola 15 to 20 times, drove around with the child's emaciated body, but later came back and put the suitcase on the basement steps. They say the next day, Cedric hid the body on a vacant lot more or less adjacent to his own property. By Tuesday night, Cedric must have known police were onto them. His girlfriend was reporting Nola missing.
We left that HOA meeting, and as I understand, he was talking with neighbors in the parking lot after the meeting, and his phone was being called and called and called and called. And then he got a 911 text, and he said, "I got to go. It's my girlfriend."
Police say he eventually confessed to all of the allegations and told them where the body was hidden. Both he and Darian Randall are now behind bars. She currently remains in a Delaware prison.
We just can't fathom how a human could do this to another human being. And that someone so close to us here in the neighborhood could play a part in it is just devastating.
Yeah, we found court paperwork from Indiana that shows Randall changed her custody agreement with Nola's dad to move here to Maryland to be with her boyfriend. I've been trying to reach out to him today, but haven't been able to connect. I also just learned that despite prosecutors asking that Britton be held without bail, in the last few minutes, we have learned that the state's attorney put out a statement saying, despite their request, he has been allowed out on home detention and $75,000 cash bail. He is allowed to go back home temporarily. For now, we're live at Newcastle County Police Headquarters. Tim Furlong, NBC 10 News.
How can he be allowed bail after something like that? This is what I be talking about. And it's like these things being swept under the rug. Like, look at that. Like, somebody accused of what they're accused of, they get bail, they get to go home. Like, that's ridiculous. Darian Randall allegedly admitted to beating her 3-year-old daughter, Nola Dinkins, to death before putting the girl's body in the suitcase. NBC 10's Tim Furlong speaks with neighbors of the woman's boyfriend, who police say helped her hide the body. The man accused of helping his girlfriend, what it says here, the man accused of helping his girlfriend hide her 3-year-old daughter's body after the woman beat the girl to death and lied to police about a kidnapping attempt, now faces new charges, according to investigators. According to court documents, on July 2nd, 2024, 44-year-old Cedric Britton was taken into custody on new charges of child abuse involving death and related offenses in connection to the murder of Nola Dinkins, age 3, who was found in a suitcase in the area of Dune Drive in Northeast Cecil County, Maryland, last month. 2 of the 11 charges Britton now faces, including child abuse resulting in death, carry the maximum penalty of life in prison. The remains were consistent with a emaciated child and completely wrapped in saran wrap, officials have said. Oh, wow. Oh, man. Okay, I think more of this is just reiterating in the last okay, that's more, so we're not gonna I'm not gonna read all of I'm not gonna read all of that. Okay, so let's talk about the psychology of false narratives. Okay, why lie about a kidnapping? Why fabricate a gunpoint abduction? Right, that's what she did. Says her child was kidnapped, has an Amber Alert, and this whole time she had beaten her child to the point where they were unresponsive and unalived. Now, this isn't just deception, it's deflection. It's a desperate attempt to rewrite reality. And it's not new. We've seen this pattern in other cases. The mother who claims the child wandered off, the boyfriend who blames strangers. It's a psychological defense mechanism, an attempt to escape guilt by creating chaos. But here's the thing: false narratives don't just delay justice, they distort it. They waste resources, mislead the public, and traumatize communities. And in Nola's case, they added insult to fatal injury. Let's see. Okay. All right. Let me share my screen again. I'm gonna got another article that I want to show. Once again, some of these articles are going to reiterate, repeat things that we've already read and said. Sometimes, though, you get new information and updates, and so I like to go over them. This article is from CBS News. Maryland couple accused of killing toddler, hiding body in suitcase, and making fake kidnapping report per court documents.
Examiner to determine if the body found in Cecil County is that of this little girl, Nola Dinkins. Welcome to the News at 5. I'm Nikki Zizaza.
And I'm Stefan Dingle. WJZ has learned her mother is charged with murder. And police say she was allegedly beaten with a belt before she died.
WJZ staying on top of the story we first told you about yesterday afternoon. Ashley Paul's live in Cecil County talking with neighbors about this horrific case. Ashley, what have you learned?
Yeah, neighbors are shocked, and they're, of course, upset after learning that 3-year-old Nola Dinkins was not only abused, but her body also likely dumped right in their own neighborhood.
It's just too close to home. It's so close to home, literally.
Chloe Elborn's reaction, the same as many in this Northeast neighborhood after learning the body of a child was found right behind their homes.
Really shocking when you hear the age of the poor child involved, and quite disturbing, that's for sure.
The gruesome discovery comes following an 18-hour search for 3-year-old Nola Dinkins. And tonight, Dinkins' mother, 31-year-old Darian Randall, and her boyfriend, 44-year-old Cedric Britton, are charged in connection with her death.
As a mama, I just cannot imagine, to do that to your child. It's insane.
According to charging documents, it was Tuesday night when Randall called the Newcastle County Police Department in Delaware and reported Dinkins was abducted off of Gender Road. Authorities tracked their last known address to here, Elk Nest Drive in Cecil County, and found Randall's boyfriend at the home. Officials noted, quote, the odor of cleaning products, specifically bleach, end quote, inside the home, and found a pink baby blanket with blood on it in the car. Randall eventually admitted she made up the story about the kidnapping, telling police she hit her daughter with a belt 15 to 20 times on Monday until the child became unconscious and ultimately died. She continued on, telling police Britton got rid of the little girl's body in an area behind the house on Dune Road.
Well, we're doing a project out by the lane there, and we saw a flatbed come and take a couple cars away from a residence there. But then police units started showing up, like a forensic, things like that, and we realized, no, there's more to it than that.
Charging documents say the remains were consistent with an emaciated child and were completely wrapped in saran wrap. Neighbors say the couple seemed normal, which makes the entire situation even more upsetting.
Well, you don't expect it, but some bad individuals walk among us.
Now, at this point, the medical examiner's office has not yet positively identified the body, but say the remains are consistent with that of a child. Now, Randall is facing a number of charges, including murder, assault, and child abuse, and is being held on $1 million bond. And as for Britton, he's charged with assault or accessory to murder, rather, and he has been released on $75,000 bond. Reporting live on your corner in Cecil County, I'm Ashley Paul, WJZ.
He should have not been released. How do psychopaths like that get to? That's just crazy. Neither one of them should be released. Okay. A Maryland mother, Darian Randall, and her boyfriend, Cedric Britton, are accused of killing her 3-year-old daughter and attempting to hide her body before a false Delaware kidnapping report sparked an investigation. According to court documents, Randall and Britton are both facing charges in connection with the death of 3-year-old Nola Dinkins after an unidentified child's body was found in Cecil County, Maryland Park on Wednesday, June 11th. False report of Delaware kidnapping leads to investigation. On Wednesday, Randall called Newcastle police in Delaware to report that her daughter had been kidnapped at gunpoint. An Amber Alert was issued, and Maryland State Police responded to child's last known residence in the state as in standard practice. When troopers responded to a home on Elk Nest Drive in Cecil County, Maryland, they found Britton. He identified himself as Randall's current boyfriend. Court documents said he told troopers the child had left with her mother. All right. Darian Randall allegedly confesses to daughter's murder. Charging documents detail how Randall made false and misleading statements during an interview with police. She later confessed that the story about the alleged kidnapping was not true. Randall told police that she had hit the child about 15 to 20 times with the belt on Monday, June 6th, at the Cecil County home. She said that Dinkins fell to the ground and was not moving. When she realized the child was no longer breathing, Randall called for Britton, who attempted CPR, according to court documents. After realizing that the child was dead, Randall told police she and Britton put the child in his car and drove around for a while before returning home. According to the police report, Randall put the child in a suitcase and left it on the basement steps overnight. She later asked Britton to take it somewhere. Randall told police Britton took the suitcase and later sent her a picture of a park. Documents show that Britton provided a map of where the child's body was disposed of. Who just... It's like, what? Would you just drop a child's body off, then what, you turn back, take a picture? Like, it's just insane. Maryland State Police said they found a body in a vacant lot around 1:45 p.m. on Wednesday. According to court documents, the remains were consistent with a emaciated child wrapped in saran wrap. A spokesperson said police are still waiting to identify the body and determine the manner of death, searching Cedric Britton's Maryland home. Okay, according to charging documents, Britton did not react when troopers arrived at his home and informed him of the abduction allegations. He later told police he was calm because he used to be special forces in the military and has dealt with human trafficking before. When troopers checked Randall's home, they noticed gloves in a downstairs trash can and another pair in Randall and Nola's room, according to court documents. During the search of Britton's car, police found a child-sized blanket with a reddish-brown smear consistent with blood, according to court documents. Britton told police the blanket was not his, and he had gotten it from a stranger he met in a park during the summer of 2024. What's next for the Maryland couple? Randall's being held in Delaware on $1 million bond and is awaiting extradition back to Cecil County. State's Attorney James Delmeyer said Thursday. Britton appeared in Cecil County Court Thursday, where he was released on $75,000 bond in order to serve home detention. Boy, they just be letting these monsters out on the street. It's, oh my God, that's horrible. All right. Okay. Okay. All righty. Now let's talk about the systemic failures and accountability. Hold on, let me put this image up. Let me share this screen. Boom. Let's see.
Murder and the death.
Let's break down how a false Amber Alert turned into a murder investigation spanning 2 states and involving this little girl.
According to Maryland State Police, Darian Randall has been charged with first-degree murder in the death of her 3-year-old daughter, Nola Dinkins. Randall's boyfriend has also been charged in connection to Dinkins' death. Now, this all started after officials tell us Randall falsely reported to police in New Castle County that her daughter went missing on Tuesday night, leading to an Amber Alert, which sent investigators searching for the toddler. Based on the original report, Randall told police she pulled over to calm Dinkins down when a stranger approached them with a gun and took the child before driving away in Newark, Delaware.
Now, this is when Maryland State Police gets involved.
The next day, at around 1:45 p.m., investigators found human remains in northeast Maryland while the search for Dinkins was underway. Police said the remains looked to be of a child, but they're waiting on autopsy reports before they can identify them. Officials say Randall, her boyfriend, and Dinkins lived in a home together in Cecil County, Maryland.
Officials tell us that Randall is currently being held at a correctional institution in New Castle under a $1 million bail. She's currently awaiting extradition to Maryland.
So send the police on. Can you imagine the panic that they put the police in, thinking that somebody's actually approached a mom at gunpoint and taken a 3-year-old, and the whole time she knew where this child's body was. She knew where the child was, and that speaks to the deception that I was just talking about. And this whole time, and I mean, the ability to just be able to lie like that and put on that front, act like you're concerned, and oh, somebody took my child and at gunpoint and all that, and the whole time this is fake. It's just crazy. It always shocks me, people that are able to do that. I remember this story before I was doing, where a woman hired somebody to kill her husband, and when they told her that he had passed away, I mean, she broke down crying, and she had hired the hitman. Like, just award-winning performance. That's just, I apologize. I'm gonna share my screen again. I got another TikTok one. I'm just trying to gather all the put up all the information I can about this. All right.
I don't have words. Honestly, I don't have words.
Neighbors here in this Northeast Maryland community said they never saw Darian Randall or her 3-year-old daughter Nola living up the long driveway in the home of 44-year-old Cedric Britton. They say they barely knew Cedric and have no idea what he even did for a living.
It was surprising and shocking to see all yesterday.
Court documents show after police began investigating the accusation Nola was stolen off a quiet road in Newark, they learned what really happened. They say Randall had beaten Nola 15 to 20 times with a belt on Monday, and that she collapsed and died after wrapping the child with saran wrap and putting her in a suitcase. Police say they drove around with the child's emaciated body, but later came back and put the suitcase on the basement steps. They say the next day, Cedric hid the body on a vacant lot more or less adjacent to his own property. By Tuesday night, Cedric must have known police were onto them. He had literally just been added to the local homeowners association as his girlfriend was reporting Nola missing.
We left that HOA meeting, and as I understand, he was talking with neighbors in the parking lot after the meeting, and his phone was being called and called and called and called. And then he got a 911 text, and he said, I got to go. It's my girlfriend.
Police say he eventually confessed to all of the allegations and told them where the body was hidden. Both he and Darian Randall are now behind bars. She currently remains in a Delaware prison.
We just can't fathom how a human could do this to another human being. And that someone so close to us here in the neighborhood could play a part in it is just devastating.
Yeah, that's crazy. When they pan the camera and you see the neighborhood though, that's why like appearances can be deceiving. You would looking at that neighborhood and it's probably it seems like a nice neighborhood. I mean, you would never imagine that's going on in your neighbors. That you never know what's going on behind closed doors. You looking at the neighborhood, you wouldn't think, and you know how people judge by appearances and stuff like that. You know, just looking at the neighborhood, that just reminds me, don't judge a book by its cover. You never know what's going on behind closed doors, and looks can be deceiving. All right, Maryland State Police share. Boom. Okay. All right. All right, now let's talk about systemic failures and accountability. Let's talk systems. Where was the Child Protective Services? Were there prior reports? Did anyone notice signs of abuse? These are the questions we must ask, not just of the individuals, but of the institutions, because when a child dies like this, it's not just a family failure, it's a societal one. We need better reporting mechanisms, stronger intervention protocols, and more community education. We need to stop treating child welfare as a reactive system and start treating it as a proactive one. Okay. The media has covered this case with urgency, but also with restraint. CBS Baltimore laid out the timeline clearly, while NBC 10 Philadelphia dug into the charges and community responses. Those are articles that we read earlier in this video. On social media, the reactions has been visceral. TikTok users have shared clips like charges filed in death of 3-year-old Nola Dinkins. Others have expressed outrage, grief, and disbelief. And Maryland State Police share update on the 3-year-old who and this offers a sobering official account. And we went over that. So, and I apologize. I'm reading off my notes because I want to make sure I get as much information as possible. So I usually type it up when I'm doing cases like this, because I don't want to just like go off the top of my head when it's a sensitive matter. I just think it's very, very, very serious. Okay. All right.
Human remains probably till tomorrow. Your new face, a couple of new faces. I'm not going to have the ID for the human remains probably till tomorrow, but I can give you some information on the arrests that have been made.
And this title is Maryland State Police share update on the 3-year-old who went missing in Delaware.
We all good? When I talk to you, I'll talk to you. Keep my eye.
Yes. Okay. I think we're good.
Okay. Elena Russo, ELENARUSSO, spokesperson for the Maryland State Police. At this time, the Maryland State Police have arrested 2 individuals connected to the disappearance of the 3-year-old who was the subject of an Amber Alert in Delaware last night. They are identified as Darian Randall, 31, and Cedric Antoine Britton, 44, both of Northeast Maryland. Randall is charged with first and second degree murder, first degree of child abuse resulting in death of a minor under 13, and other related criminal charges. Randall's currently in police custody at the Newcastle County Division of Police awaiting extradition to Maryland. Britton is charged with accessory to first and second degree murder after the fact, failure to report child death, and other related criminal charges. Britton is in police custody and is awaiting transport to the Cecil County District Court for his initial appearance. Yesterday evening, after the Amber Alert was issued for a 3-year-old Nola Dinkins through Newcastle County Division of Police, after the mother reported her kidnapped in Newark, Delaware, an intensive investigation was immediately initiated. Maryland State Police from the Northeast Barrack, as well as our Criminal Enforcement Division Northern Region, assisted in this investigation with the information that the 3-year-old lived in Cecil County with her mother. Information gleaned throughout the investigation revealed that the initial report provided by Randall was false and that Amber Alert was subsequently canceled. Information that was gleaned through the investigation of the Maryland State Police Homicide Unit led to human remains found in a vacant lot today at 1:45 p.m. in the Northeast region of Cecil County. Maryland State Police Homicide Unit is continuing this investigation and is leading it with the help of our federal partners at the FBI, as well as our police partners in Delaware. And at this point, I do not have any identification on the human remains, but they are consistent with those belonging to a child. And that is all the information I really have for you at this point.
Have authorities ever been called to that home before?
I don't know the answer to that question.
And then the second suspect you named, do you know what the relationship between that suspect to the child is? What are you thinking of the child?
Police believe Randall is the mother of the 3-year-old, and the 44-year-old Cedric Britton was living in the same house, and he is believed to be her boyfriend.
Did they have full custody? I understand the father is
I cannot answer that, I'm sorry.
Okay. And as far as the child abuse charges and murder without an ID, how did you guys that conclusion?
In consultation with the Office of the State's Attorney in Cecil County, our homicide unit investigators had enough information gleaned through the investigation that connected these 2 individuals with the disappearance of this 3-year-old.
So, they were arrested in Delaware, but the mother and the 3-year-old lived in Maryland?
The mother remains in Delaware in police custody, and the boyfriend is in Maryland State, and the boyfriend is in Maryland in state police custody.
So, but the 3-year-old lives in Maryland with her mother full time?
That's what we believe at this time, yes.
Do we know why the mother was in Delaware at the time of the arrest?
The part of the investigation involving the Amber Alert and the false report that this mother allegedly gave is all still under investigation, and any information or any questions you have about that part of the investigation should be, you should probably ask the Delaware authorities.
Can you tell us a little more about how you knew that this body was in the park, and more about the specific area?
It was information that was gleaned throughout the investigation in the leads that our homicide unit investigators were able to obtain that led them to the site where the human remains were discovered, which was in a vacant lot in Northeast.
Can you be any more specific about where that lot is? Do you have a street name or anything?
Yeah, all of that is part of the ongoing investigation.
We have choppers over the park. I just wanted to make nature of my child?
Ever since the Maryland State Police began their part of this investigation, they have been searching neighborhoods. They've been searching community parks. They were combing through areas in Cecil County looking for any signs of this infant. It wasn't until evidence was obtained through the investigation that led them to this vacant lot.
So we don't know if it was Perryville Community Park.
I don't believe it is. I can research that for you, though.
Where was the 44-year-old man when you got him?
Let me think on that one. Maryland State Police were assisting with the Amber Alert part of the investigation when they learned that the 3-year-old lived in Cecil County. They responded to the home, and that is where they made contact with the 44-year-old man involved in this investigation.
Were any other kids, or do any other kids live in the home with the two that you mentioned?
I do not know if there are any other individuals that live in that home.
Is she cooperating with police?
Yes, both individuals have cooperated with police since the beginning of this investigation.
Does Ms. Randall have any other family members in the state of Maryland, or are they cooperating with police?
I don't know about any other family members.
Does she have any priors?
I don't know that either. Okay.
Do you know how long they've been living there, or?
No, I'm sorry.
Do you have any plans of releasing them up?
If I can get it, I absolutely will. Yes, I'm working on a news release now, and I hope to issue that, within, I promise, 30 minutes. We do not have positive identification of the human remains that were found.
She'll be extradited here now.
I cannot tell you when she will be extradited. I just know she's awaiting extradition.
In addition to the mother, when you say he'll be moved, is he moved publicly where we would see him like in a parking lot over here?
That I don't know. Yeah.
Is that something you guys do normally?
Not really.
What's still the boyfriend's last name?
The boyfriend's last name, and this will be out in the news release shortly. Cedric is his first name, Cedrick. Britton, Britten, 44 years old of Northeast.
Do you think we'll have his mugshot by today?
I can't guarantee it. I will try though.
And then as far as you're waiting on the medical examiner, and then
Yes, our investigators are waiting on the results of the autopsy to not just only identify the young, what we believe to be a child's body, but also cause and manner of death.
do you plan to give another update tomorrow when you have that information? Or
Yes,
absolutely. Follow up with them?
Yes, as soon as I get the identification, I'll follow up with everybody. But this is a tragic incident, and for everybody involved, the Maryland State Police, all the investigators are working tirelessly to resolve what happened here and why it happened. So our hearts go out to the community and to all of those involved, and we thank you for being here. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Dum dum. All right. This next video is from Law and Crime Network. They do a great job with reporting on stories like this and putting information together. So I wanted to play this.
The man accused of helping his girlfriend hide her 3-year-old daughter's body is now facing new charges. Police say Darian Randall falsely claimed her daughter, Nola Dinkins, was abducted at gunpoint, but that story quickly unraveled. Investigators allege it was all a cover-up to hide the truth. The child was allegedly beaten to death. Randall is now charged with murder, and her boyfriend, Cedric Britton, is facing new counts of child abuse in connection to Nola's death. Thanks for watching. I'm Kennedy Walker, and I'll walk you through the details. You're watching Law and Crime. It was 1 month ago when 3-year-old Nola Dinkins was discovered in a suitcase wrapped in saran wrap. But before the tragic discovery, her mother, Darian Randall, had told police a very different story. She claimed her daughter had been kidnapped at gunpoint. Randall allegedly told Newcastle County Police that she had pulled over to comfort Nola, who had become upset, when a white man with a gun approached her vehicle and snatched the toddler. She said the suspect took off in a dark SUV driven by a white woman. That report triggered an Amber Alert and a full-scale search. The FBI and local agencies sprang into action, but just hours later, the truth began to unravel.
I don't know if this is what she was trying to do, but it seemed like she was also trying to make it a little racial. But it kind of seems like to me. And I have to say that because if it was a white person that said, "Oh, a black man did it," you know, people would call it out then. So I gotta say that you know.
Hours later, the truth began to unravel.
Detectives determined that the initial account of the investigation of the incident given by the mother was false. The Amber Alert is now canceled and there is no danger to the public.
According to documents obtained by WBAL, Randall later allegedly admitted to investigators that she beat her daughter with a belt on the morning of June 9th inside her boyfriend Cedric Britton's home until the little girl became unresponsive. Rather than call for help, investigators say the couple drove around with Nola's body in Britton's vehicle before eventually returning home. That night, police say they placed Nola's body inside a suitcase and left it in the basement. The next day, Randall allegedly asked Britton to dispose of the luggage. He took the luggage to the park, reportedly took a photo of the location, and sent it to Randall. According to court documents, Britton even drew police a map to the area. When investigators arrived, they found the suitcase. Inside was the 3-year-old completely wrapped in saran wrap. Both Randall and Britton were arrested.
At this time, the Maryland State Police have arrested 2 individuals connected to the disappearance of the 3-year-old who was the subject of an Amber Alert in Delaware.
Initially, Cedric Britton was charged as an accessory, but now a superseding indictment has been filed, charging him with first-degree child abuse resulting in death, improper disposal of a body, and several other counts. In total, Britton now faces 11 charges. 2 of them carry the maximum penalty of life in prison. And here to break down this story with me is criminal defense attorney Jessica Lettingham. Jessica, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's just jump right in. What does this superseding indictment tell you about how prosecutors are building their narrative against Cedric Britton?
Well, if we break it down, they originally had him charged with helping her after. You know, they thought maybe he just helped his girlfriend put the body in the backpack and dump it. But now it's looking like he's a lot more involved in actually being a co-conspirator. From what I could tell from the facts, it seems like he might have been in the house during the beating. And that would be a huge reason of why they're charging him this way, because he could have stopped it. He could have, as soon as he saw the body, tried to call the hospital to revive her. I mean, they're not medical professionals, so it's very easy to say that she could have maybe survived if they had called the authorities right away.
Right. And does he now face more legal risk than Randall in some ways, given the nature of his upgraded charges?
I think they're at the same risk. They're both being charged at the same, with the same murder charge. So, but if he was to be found not guilty of this, they also have the other charges underneath. She might have given a deal because she talked so much to him. She might have more lenient charges coming her way, and that's why she turned so quickly. So I'm sure there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Right.
And why? That's what I'd be saying. Why would she get any leniency at all after doing what she did? But to the point where the little girl may have survived if they just took her to the hospital immediately. I have seen other cases where, because these people, like the lady said, these people are not medical professionals or anything like that. I've seen cases where people thought someone was dead and they went to dispose of their body. And I've heard stories of, when they put they might put the person in a garbage bag or wrap them in plastic, and the autopsy would reveal that the person actually died from suffocating in the plastic that they wrapped them in, because they thought the person was dead. Sometimes, when people are out of their mind and they think they killed somebody, and they think the person's dead. That little girl, when they wrapped her in saran wrap, could have been alive.
Right. Yeah, and we'll get into the defense strategies in a moment, but just could Britain's alleged effort to help police find the body be viewed as damage control or too little too late legally?
I think that the defense is going to try to spin it as damage control. I think the prosecution and most people will see it as little too late. This is a mother that brutally beat her child and then stuffed her in a backpack. I think that it's going to be hard for anything that the defense does in this instance.
What kind of sentence could Mr. Britton be facing if he's convicted on all 11 charges? And what's realistically likely?
20 years. I think that would be the most likely in this instance. It could be even longer, but I think he'll get 15, 20 years. We are talking about him helping murder a little 3-year-old child.
And I realize every case is different, but in cases where a person is, being charged with 11 crimes, do we usually see them like a guilty verdict on all of them, or is it, give and take?
Well, it's give and take. And, it's also the prosecution is going to want to probably take this all the way to trial. This is a case that you usually don't plea out, because it is an easy win and you do want justice to be on the face. That's why a lot of people were surprised that Koberger, that the prosecution led to a plea deal there, because a lot of times when the prosecution has an easy win of a very brutal crime, they don't allow any type of plea and they want the maximum sentence on all charges.
And let's talk about that, right? Because again, we don't know how this is going to go, whether it'll go to trial or not. But if it does, what does that timeline look like? And if they choose not to, do they usually do that just because they don't have enough resources or they don't want to spend money and it's just an easier win, you could say, when there's a plea in a case like this one?
Absolutely. So a plea allows you to not expend the resources. Trials are very expensive for the prosecution because you have to have all these detectives come in, all these expert witnesses come in, and it takes away the resources of the prosecutor working on a different case. And that is why a plea could happen. Now, if it does go to trial, it depends on the defense. They have a right to a speedy trial, which means they could be back in court in 6 months, but a lot of times they don't want that because they want to build their defense. And then you're looking at a year or 2 years out before we actually have the trial.
Now, just getting into some more details, according to documents, the body was reportedly malnourished and wrapped in saran wrap. What might that level of concealment indicate to investigators?
It shows that they were abusing her beforehand, and it shows that they had the intent to conceal it and try to get away with it. They came up with a very elaborate ruse, and that's why we have so many heavy charges on both of them, because this wasn't just a heat of the moment, she beat her child once and then reported it right away. No, she was constantly beating her. They were starving her. And then they tried to come up with this ruse, and they had her in the suitcase for a full night, just down at the bottom of the stairs. It shows a level of depravity, which is why I could really see the prosecution wanting to take this to trial and letting people know that you do not get away with this type of crime.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that part about maybe it shows a history of alleged abuse, because sometimes, we see the defense argue that, oh, this was a one-time thing. Maybe it went too far. She didn't mean to. There was no intent there. But because of the condition of the body, I'm assuming that widens the case beyond a single moment of violence.
And I think that that is a huge part of why they bumped up his charge, right? So instead of him just helping afterwards, now he's actually helping during the process of the crime. And that's because we have a starvation of the child. We have the child being, there was it sounds like the child was actually beat beforehand, that this was not the first beating. It sounds like they were a very abusive couple to this 3-year-old daughter. And I'm very glad that the prosecution is going so hard on these charges for both of these individuals.
Well, do text messages or location data between Miss Randall and Mr. Britton become key in reconstructing the timeline, especially around the disposal?
Absolutely. And they're going to be looking at all of that. They obviously already have all the phones and the phone records in their possession. They will be tracking them and tracing their steps so you can see a play-by-play, not just afterwards, but also before. Make sure that you can show that both of them were in the house during the crime. When did this occur? And then they're going to be looking for text or pictures to show that there was a pattern of abuse of the child.
Now, we just touched on the fact that, according to police, the child's body was in that suitcase, at least overnight. Does putting the body in a suitcase and allegedly leaving it, just speak to premeditation or panic?
I think it speaks to both. I think that the defense is going to say it was panic. I think that the prosecution is going to say it was premeditation. It was not any remorse. They had zero remorse. They literally stuffed her away and put her out of their mind. All they cared about was themselves. And they're going to show that this is calculated, that it took him minutes to think of putting her and placing her in the suitcase.
Could Mr. Britton's defense team argue that he was manipulated or coerced? And how would a jury likely respond to that, if so?
The defense can argue whatever they want. As you pointed out, it's about the jury, and the jury is not going to buy that he was coerced, especially when it was his idea to come up with the suitcase. From what we've heard, she's alleging that. She's also alleging that he was the one who thought of burying her. I think they're both going to try to point the finger at the other one, and at the end of the day, I think the jury is going to find them equally culpable.
Right, because what role does just failure to act play in cases like this, especially for a non-biological partner like Mr. Britton?
And the prosecution is most likely going to show that there was a pattern of failure to act. And as we just discussed, they're going to be looking to see if he was abusive as well. And hearing a 3-year-old get beat with a belt 15 to 20 times, that's culpability. That's not just failure to act. That's allowing someone to murder someone right next to you. That is helping them and then immediately saying, here's the suitcase. That is why the prosecution bumped it up, because there is a clear intent of his to harm this child. Whether he acts on it or not, his intent is very clear.
Is it possible we'll see this case split? Because I know in situations like this, when we're looking at two people being charged, everyone is just trying to get the better deal. So, is that possible with each defendant tried separately, and why might prosecutors do that?
Well, we see that time and time again, that when you have couples and they're both being accused of a crime, that they will separate them out. And unfortunately, they will both usually testify against one another. It's very possible that the prosecution doesn't make a deal with either of them, that they want the max sentence for both of them. And even though her story is going to be that it was all his idea and his story is going to be he was just kind of there for the ride, I think it's going to be about believability. It's not just he said, she said. There's going to be a pattern. There's the starvation. There's the backpack. There's the phone tracking device. So even though they may allege a lot of things that they had very little culpability, the prosecution is going to build a strong case and look at all of the different evidence that you just asked about in this interview.
Now, I'm just wondering, because according to police, Nola's mother allegedly confessed to beating her child. And then, Nola just never got up. So just wondering if this alleged confession is true, how can Randall face the same charges if she's admitted to it?
So aiding and abetting during a crime, how you can face those charges is because you were a part of the crime while it's happening. That is why I think, even though we don't have all of the story, it sounds like the police are alleging that he was in the home during the beating. And then immediately after, he pulled out the suitcase. And also seems like the police and the prosecution are going to allege that there is a pattern of abuse. So that's why we have the aiding and abetting and him helping during the crime, because he's sitting right there for however long as she is beating her child and punishing her. So because he had the intent of allowing it to happen and, not stopping her, that is why they bumped up the charges to aiding and abetting during the crime.
And we know that Nola's mother is also facing additional charges for allegedly lying to police about Nola being kidnapped. I mean, are those federal charges that we're looking at here? And could Mr. Britton be tied into that as well if the prosecutors think that they planned, made this plan together?
Absolutely. It could bump up to federal charges if the federal government wants to get involved. Maryland might just say, we're going to keep it state. And I think that any charges they could put on her at this point, they can also put on him because he was living with her. And it sounds like he was there during the entire commission of all of these crimes.
Would it be federal because it was two different states? Like, she reported her missing in Delaware or in one state, but she lived in another. Like, how do the feds get involved in something like that?
Yes, because of the crossing of state lines, that is how the feds could potentially get involved if they want to. It depends on whether or not they're going to pursue the kidnapping charges her alleging this kidnapping, but because she was alleging a kidnapping that happened in one state and crossing over to the other one, that is how the feds could get involved.
What's the likelihood that additional people could be charged if others knew what happened and maybe just didn't speak up?
Very possible. Although I actually see that the prosecution, if they find that there's others, they're going to want to deal with them and make sure that they can get them to act as witnesses during potential trials rather than convict them as well. So you could really see that whole thing, be all about how do we build the strongest case against these two people to make sure that these two people never see the light of day.
Let's move to potential systemic failures in child welfare. What makes a 3-year-old especially vulnerable in abuse cases, both physically and legally?
Well, they don't have a voice. They can't speak up. And I think it's really difficult for teachers to get involved. They're terrified of getting involved, and you don't blame them. But I think it's important that people around really speak up. I also wish that there was less of a systemic failure in social services in the state of Maryland. I think Maryland I don't think that the resources are there for social services to get involved in every case that they should. And unfortunately, the funding's not there to expand the program.
So what can we do about that? Just looking for a solution. If there seems to be this problem with the system, but kids are still, getting hurt or in this case, dying, what can we do to really fix this problem?
And the problem that she brought up, it's not just in Maryland. It seems to be in all of the states. It seems to be because I see this same thing in other cases with people in other states. It's almost like, remember they had the Michigan mom. She left her kids to live at home by themselves. It was like it had been 3 years. She got away with that, and she would just pull up to the house, ring the doorbell, and just leave food on the porch. And by the time the police figured out what's going on, they went into the home. They said it was trash everywhere in the home. Those kids were living in their own filth, feces and stuff like that, just everywhere. It was just horrible. So yeah, it's that child protective services stuff. I mean, it seems like it's failing everywhere.
Well, start small. I always say first start small. Look around you. Are there family members of yours in trouble? Are there friends of your children that are in trouble? If you want to help a child that's near you, please do. Then if you want to expand out, you could always try to become a foster parent. The more foster parents we have, the more people that actually care and are willing to take in kids like this home. That means that the more social services can take children away from abusive homes.
But even then, though, you have people that do report it. Like in one of the news reports that I played earlier, the grandmother was trying to, she was being involved in stuff. And I think one of the issues is they're overworked and underpaid and understaffed. And so even when you have people that are reporting, that are getting involved, they're not moving fast enough to get these children out of these deadly situations.
So instead of trying to change the bigger system and worried about the government, if every person just became, if half the people that want to do something became foster parents, we wouldn't be having this problem because we'd have good kids with good homes.
Right. Great advice there. And also, like we mentioned, if you see something, say something. If you feel like, you see a child and they may be hurt, of course, report that. And so just like in Nola's situation, with the body reportedly being malnourished, could schools, doctors, or neighbors have missed key signs of abuse or neglect?
Absolutely. And pay attention. Children fall, but pay attention to where the bruises are. Be not afraid to speak up, because you can save a child, whether or not it be from actual imminent death or from a lifetime of abuse and trauma. And abuse and trauma, as we know, leads to people becoming drug addicts or going out and leaving school because they just want to leave home at young ages of 13, 14, 15. So don't be afraid to speak up when you see signs of a child that's really dirty, that never gets a shower, that is bruises in odd places. As a parent, if social services were to come knock on my door because someone saw something with my child because she broke her toe last week during cheerleading, I would rather social services come to my door and make sure that my child is okay. And I wouldn't be mad at whoever called, although I certainly has a reason to call. But I'd rather social services double and triple checking me and others than letting another child die.
Right. Because who knows, you could be saving a life when doing that. So with the investigation, how do investigators backtrack a child's life to determine if there were earlier missed opportunities for intervention?
They talk to the teachers, they talk to daycare providers, family, friends, cousins, and they just backtrack everything. It's all about an investigation and research of what was this child's life actually like. And they go through everything and they find out who should have seen what.
We talked a little bit about the jury already, but in cases like this one, just such an emotional case, a 3-year-old child now dead. What makes a jury more likely to be emotionally swayed in a case involving a child? And what do prosecutors have to be cautious about?
Well, children are innocent. I am getting worked up talking about this case myself because it is so heartbreaking that a mother could do this to their own child. And I think that the prosecution, they don't have to be nasty to either the possible defendants, right? If this actually goes to trial, all they have to do is just lay the evidence out there. As the prosecutor, they're going to want to be more straight facts, because these facts are going to make anyone emotional. There's not much that the prosecution has to do other than lay it out there calmly and rationally and objectively, so that way the jurors can soak it in and their emotions will do the rest.
And before I let you go, as a criminal defense attorney, how would you begin to defend both of these defendants?
Well, first, you want to see if there's any deal to be made, if there's anything that you could do with the prosecution, because this is going to be an extremely tough case in a court of law. Next, I would look for every single piece of evidence that points, let's say I was her defense attorney, I would want every single piece of evidence that points to her boyfriend being involved in beatings, pointing to her boyfriend in the suitcase, pointing to her boyfriend egging her on. Maybe even signs, did he abuse the child? Did he abuse her? You really want to poke holes in the relationship and try to point out coercion and, less innocence. So a lot more innocence with your defendant. It's all about pointing fingers at the other side.
Well, this is a case that we will be following closely. Jessica, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Cedric Britton is being held in police custody without bond. For Law and Crime, I'm Kennedy Walker.
Okay. Okay. Now let's go deeper. What does this case say about our culture, about motherhood, masculinity, and silence? Randall was a mother, Brittany was a partner, but neither protected Nola. Instead, they became her executioners. And that forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about domestic violence, emotional neglect, and the myth of parental sanctity. We also need to talk about how poverty, isolation, and untreated trauma can create conditions where violence festers. This isn't just about monsters, it's about systems that breed desperation. And we need to stop pretending that these cases are rare. They're not, they're just rarely caught. So, what do? We remember Nola, we say her name, we demand justice, not just in courtrooms, but in classrooms, clinics, and communities. We support organizations that fight child abuse. We check in on our neighbors. We speak up when something feels wrong. Because silence is complicity, and Nola Dinkins deserves more than silence. She deserves legacy, one that says never again. Thank y'all for joining and tuning in. If you want to support the content and you like conversations like this, feel free to subscribe, hit the notification bell. Don't forget, thumbs up the video, put it in the algorithm so that other people can be aware and hear this story. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate you. This is Risky Behavior ENT, and I am your humble host, Mr. Diabolical himself.
Risky behavior.